think we can go ahead and get started. Chris is just gonna kind of walk through the changes just to get us all, like I said, on the same page, and then we'll go into some more specific questions about what's changing starting in 2026 for Capstone.
Yeah. Yep. So thanks for joining everyone on a Sunday and lots of people later in the curriculum, which I think most of you heard me speak a lot about some of the stuff and might be repetitive. So feel free to ask your own questions just to drive the conversation forward. And then we got a couple folk kind of early on as well. So um, but just to summarize the announcement made a couple days ago to Capstone. So the big one is that we're moving from a three cohort per year to two cohorts per year. And the major reason for that is because we want to run less frequent, larger cohorts. And the reason we want to do that is because we're actually expending more resources and investment per cohort. So it's getting just more expensive for us to run each cohort. And the reason for that is because um, sort of in a tighter job market, you need to do more. We need to do more. As a capstone program that drives people to jobs, we have to do more for students now than before, right? And so the way that for us to do that is to just run less frequent cohorts per year. So a couple changes. So it's like, what are we investing in then? What's changing about Capstone? So first of all, the duration is not going to change. We're going to keep it the same. And this work has been happening beyond like just this week, right? Beyond just this announcement. It's been germinating for quite a long time. So it started, for example, with like moving out the data structure and algorithms content to the core curriculum, right? When we run out of space in Capstone, we tend to push it to Capstone Prep. And then if we run out of space there, we push it to the core curriculum. So the data structure and algorithms was part of that when we slowly pushed it out, eventually made its way to the core curriculum. We wrote two books, one course, and and all of that work was to make room in Capstone. We spent 2 weeks in Capstone on that, right? So that freed up 2 weeks. We added AI engineering week and a cloud infrastructure week. And these two are incredibly high ROI on the job hunt versus data structure algorithms. Not to say data structure algorithms isn't important. It's just that we're seeing much higher ROI on these topics. Um, and these topics are really hard to move to the core curriculum because they're pretty fast moving. Like AI engineering is a relatively new field, and there's not things that we call fundamental quite yet, or they haven't stabilized quite yet. And even the models we're working with, they're not stabilized, right? New abilities come out. It's like we're trying to work with relational database with new abilities coming out every couple months. It's really hard to say these are the fundamental concepts you have to know. So that's why we have a Capstone. Capstone is sort of our just-in-time learning, and it's our adaptive curriculum to meet the market, right? The other thing we're doing is actually on the job hunt now, and we're calling that just kind of building work experience or generating work experience with our open source initiatives, our internship opportunities, and we can talk more about that later. But the high level idea here is that software engineering is really interesting that you could generate experience. So there's the catch 22 of, hey, I'm new to the field. Everyone's looking for people with experience, but how do I overcome this catch 22? I don't have experience, so therefore no one's going to hire me. Um, how do I generate experience? And I think this is the interesting thing about our field is that unlike, let's say, a medical doctor, you can't just go practice medicine on people without a medical degree or a license. We don't need license or permission to generate experience. And so we in Capstone are able to now take advantage of that and put you in front of real work, right? So last cohort, we had every single person submit a patch to Firefox, which is quite amazing. And it allows you to answer questions like, have you worked on real projects before? You said, well, is Firefox real? Right? Submitted a real thing. And these aren't just like typos or anything like that. They're real work, right? So really, really love the fact that all our participants were able to do that. Everybody who participated in OSI were able to do that. And but those initiatives are not part of the official like 16-week curriculum. Those initiatives are part of additional work during the job hunt, and it's optional if you want. Just because we do have people who are coming out of Capstone and their profiles, resonates well with the market, and they're able to be quite active, frankly, in terms of engagement. So they don't need these extra things. On the other hand, certain profiles might need this, right? So sometimes we have people, for example, without college degrees. And so you have sort of like this double whammy of like not having technical experience, but also not having a college degree, not having any experience sometimes, right? So then maybe some of these initiatives can be really helpful for the resume, and you can participate in that. So these are optional activities. Again, we can talk about it later some more. So two major things, right? So high level idea is moving from 3 to 2 cohorts and investing in AI engineering, huge high ROI topic right now, and then investing in generating real work experience. Timeline shifted a little bit. So the fall cohort actually we kept the same. So that will still start late August, run through end of the year job hunt in the following year. The big change is going to be for the January cohort and the May cohort. Those are going to be no longer. We're going to have one cohort in the spring, starting early March, and job hunt starting late June. So spring and fall cohort only. Kind of matches like university semesters. So I kind of like that better, anyways. And then I won't enumerate through like the weekly topics, but they're in that announcement. And everything's fairly similar to before, except for the fact that we have 2 weeks of AI engineering going forward for year 2026. So high level summary of changes.
Yeah, great. Just to make sure we're all clear, the duration of the coursework of Capstone isn't changing, but we should generally expect the job hunt to take longer these days. Like we've said, Capstone is getting longer, but we mean the job hunt and like maybe extra work that people have to do, like open source initiatives. But the coursework is still 16 weeks. Yeah.
Yep.
And is the price changing?
Nope.
Cool. Just some housekeeping. I know people are probably thinking, maybe too shy to ask. So that's the duration. Uh, well, what if people aren't interested in AI roles? Like we have 2 weeks now dedicated to AI roles. What if people just are like, that's not my thing? Is it still going to benefit them?
Yeah, I mean, it depends on how disinterested you are. I think that AI as a topic, and I think it's hard to talk about this depending on where you are on a curriculum. Like if you're further along, then we can talk about this more concretely. But working with AI uh, components is very similar to working with non-AI components. We're making API calls, we're standing up servers, we're setting up instances, but these things just have different behaviors than the non-AI components that we work with, right? So for like a relational database, we send in a SQL query, we get a data set back, right? A response set back. That's how we treat a database. There's really not like a philosophical angle with the database. It's like I don't want to work with databases. It's just a database, right? And then that's relational data. There's other kind of data stores out there, key value stores, etc., and they have different trade-offs, right? So that's how we kind of teach, and that's how you should think about these systems. These are like a Lego blocks you get to use, and depending on the scenario you're working on, you can pull off these Lego blocks to use. AI just gives us more Lego blocks. So we just have one more thing that popped up that says, oh, there's a thing called embeddings, and you send in some text, you get some vectors back, right? Or you said, and there are some new API or new models that when you send in some text, it gives you a response back. So instead of in a relational database, it's very deterministic. You give it a query, it's going to give you this specific data back, and you can write tests against that, right? Make sure to give me this set of data back. But in a non-deterministic system, like an AI model, you're still calling an API, you're still getting some text back, but it's a non-deterministic data, and you have to like deal with that. There's a whole new way of dealing with that. So we talk about these things. I don't think it's uh like when you break it down, it's not really like AI in a vague sense. It's just another component that we're working with when we're building software, right? And my philosophy is this. I think that software depends like how what we consider good software depends on the expectations of users, right? So like I started using the internet before before like Facebook and things like that. I just noticed that when everyone started using Facebook really a lot, people's expectation for software increased. Okay. So for example, like I remember being I was freelancing at the time. I was working my own startup and I was freelancing and I was tasked to build like this activity feed. And one of the requirements was like people should be able to drop in a YouTube link, right? And I remember like building it and then the client was like, "Oh, but it should automatically preload the preview." And then it should do all this stuff. And I was like, oh, it wasn't specified in the ticket. I can go do that, but it's going to take actually a lot longer now, right? This thing that was originally going to take like 2 hours now might take a week. And they're like, why is that? Why is it so much longer? And what I realized was they're looking at the Facebook feed. When you drop in a video link, there's just all these features that pop up to make the video user friendly in that feed. That's what they were envisioning in their head. So the standard expectation for a description of a feature completely exploded in quality, right? It wasn't just like dragging this link and then you can watch it. It was like, oh, I should be able to like resize it. I should pop out the video. I should be able to like share. There's just a ton of, I could pause it, right? These are all features you got to build if you're building a custom app. I bring that up just to mention that I think that as end users get used to working with AI, the fastest growing app is ChatGPT nowadays, right? But as end users get used to working with AI, I do think there's going to be an expectation of some AI feature in your application that is now going to be standard, like just expected as part of a modern good application. So therefore, as software builders, we have to meet that standard, meet that expectation, right? It's just like cars should have air conditioning now, right? The window should be power, right? Like these are normal things you don't even specify anymore when you buy a new car nowadays. And I think it's similar things happening. So these AI, it's not so much whether you dislike or like or dislike. It's really like the end user expectation and taste has increased for software because of this. Everyone's using it now, and we have to react to it. So we're teaching it. No, there's no it's very new, so there's no like best practices or everyone's just trying to figure out right now. So it's an exciting time. It's like a frontier. What we're doing with LSBot, it's on the frontier. So it's really exciting, really fun. And my hope is that you don't shun it for just because I to me it's just like a database.
For sure. Yeah, I like that comparison to databases. And it's still software engineering. Like
Yeah,
if you haven't looked into AI, it might feel like this kind of like magical like black hole and you don't know what's going on in there. But really we're just like making API calls and it happens
yeah,
to be a different format. Like it's just gave a bunch of people new ideas for applications. So that's
that's all it
cool.
is. It's kind of like being against Postgres, It's like no need for that. No need
Yeah.
for that.
Cool. Great. So back to Capstone kind of logistics a little bit. Will the groups in Capstone be larger? I think the groups right now are about 4 people usually.
Yeah, no, that no, none of that is changing. We're keeping it the same. That's been really good. So we're keeping everything that works, and really just on a per cohort basis, just really allow us to uh do more investment work. Just because, like, if we're at 3 cohorts, every time we do like outreach to OSI partners or internship partners. It's just a ton of work. Behind the scenes, there's a lot of work behind the scenes. So we just get to consolidate that a little bit. Yeah.
Yeah, got it. Um, can you maybe walk us through like an end-to-end scenario of what an internship opportunity might look like? I know they're all very
Mhm.
different, but maybe just an example so people can understand
Got
like
you.
what could this look like for me?
Got you. So uh, I'll pivot to the OSI just because we have a better standardized approach there. And then I'll talk about the internship as well. So the OSI, typically how we engage with our partner companies is we say, hey, we have people ready to go. They want to generate experience, but in exchange, we want mentorship and we want real work, right? So this is the hard part about if you were to just contribute to open source. So we get this question a lot. Like people are, especially early on in the core curriculum, they want to contribute open source to prepare them when they finish the core curriculum, they'll have like open source contributions. The problem is the earlier you are, the less you have to contribute, right? And the analogy I usually give is like if you're constructing your house, some person runs up and says, hey, can I help? And you're like, probably not, right? Like move that dirt, move that rock, I guess. It depends on what you can do, right? And you don't have enough ability yet. But in my house. You need to be able to like come in and understand everything. I need people who know what they're doing on their own. If you dictate that you just want to help, then I have to carve out my own time to think about work just for you. And that's actually costly for me. So and that's true for any work, right? Like you try to go to a restaurant and you try to go to the kitchen and be like, "Can I help?" People are like, you can't do anything. Or we have to spend a lot of time thinking about what you can do, and that's just too expensive for us. So it's the same thing here. Volunteering for open source work is actually not as easy as it seems, just because the maintainers are busy and they're not there to like mentor or help. So the way we have it set up is we have to first of all convince them that like we have very high quality contributors, right? And that they're ready to go. And second, on the participant side, we have to say, hey, look, you're gonna get a little bit of mentoring. It's gonna be pretty much like work. And the first day of work, it's just like here's a laptop, here's your Git credentials, pull down the code, get it set up, and then like start fixing tickets. You have like a day or two to do that at most, right? You can't sit there for a couple weeks. And I think a lot of people are just shocked by that. But this OSI program is meant to give you a little taste of that. You'll have a group of people, so at least you'll have a group of people to ask if you're like, I don't know how to do this and that. There's a safe space to ask. You also have a mentor, right? But for the most part, it is like, here you go, right? And that'll be a good experience to transition to work. So, but how that works? So we have to first of all set that whole thing up. And usually we ask for 4 weeks of dedicated time. So in the past, we used to be a little bit more relaxed. We used to say, hey, look, you can like job hunt and do this on the side. And we never got like really even results, right? Like some people got patches accepted, some people didn't. And frankly, most people didn't. And if you ask like, how come, you didn't get patches accepted, or it's like, oh, I just, like all of a sudden this company came, or all of a sudden I was like applying and or all of a sudden the NFL season starting, like just a bunch of reasons. It's just like very low priority, right? Anything comes into your life, that low priority thing gets bumped off. So then we made a tweak. We said, okay, we're going to mandate pairing, and we're going to mandate full time. You have to pause your job hunt, and pair. And all of a sudden, everyone got the patches accepted, which is amazing, right? So because once you pair, like people show up for other people, right? If I have a appointment to pair with somebody, I'm gonna show up and go. But if I don't have that appointment, anything will bump the work off my schedule, right? So those two changes have been really good, and we asked for 4 weeks of dedicated time. I think there's like a 1 week of on ramp that is like not part of the official time, and you have a mentor as well for that program, right? So that's OSI. Um, Internships are a little bit different. So OSI is pretty standardized for the most part. It might be like 5 weeks maybe, but for the most part, it's going to be something like that. Internships are a little different because they're just individualized. Some internships pay really well, actually, and some don't pay that well. And it's mostly generating experience, right? And I always think about it like this. There's work and then there's education. And whenever we talk about OSI or internships, they're kind of like somewhere in the middle, right? Like when it comes to work, you get paid. You get paid 100%, but also you get blamed and there's a lot of expectations, right? High pay, high expectations. You got to carry the load. You got to be able to do whatever you want to do. Um, Education is there's a lot of the low expectation or high expectation for like effort, right? Low expectation for like just, you have to do or you get fired kind of thing. But there's a lot of help, there's a lot of mentorship, there's a lot of it's like a safe space to ask questions, that type of thing, right? So it's a spectrum. So like think about Capstone. Not only do you not get paid for Capstone, you actually have to pay for Capstone, right? And the jobs is like the complete opposite. So when you slide the bar kind of more in the middle of the two, it's a little odd, right? So is it work or is it education? Which one is it? And so when we go to these internship partners, this is what we say. We're like, we're sliding the bar in the middle a little bit. It's not work, but it's not pure education either, right? And in order to take advantage, everyone sort of has to meet in the middle. Um, and so we have some partners that I think understand that, and for the most part, we've been our internship participants have been basically blown expectations out of the water, just because I think in their mind they're like, oh, it's just like a boot camp, and I'll temper my expectations, right? And of course, if you did core and capstone, you're going to come in highly competent, and so that's been really good for us as well. So these two programs, internship just varies a little bit. It could be like 2 months, it could be 3 months. We have like 6 months. It's like that's basically a job, but it's obviously up to you to if you want to participate in that or not.
Right. Yeah, they're both opportunities and I think a side effect of like the market, but also not a bad thing. It's also great, I think, to alleviate some of those nerves before you go on to your first real job, job all the way.
Yeah.
There's a really interesting question from someone that I don't think we've talked about before, which is have how are we feeling about any longer lead times between finishing core and starting capstone? Like, is there enough capstone prep to keep someone busy, even if they like just miss a deadline? I know people were worried about this
Right.
before, but it was like so soon. But is that
Yeah.
actually a concern now?
That's always been something that's happened here and there. I feel like we have infinite material to give you. The core curriculum end is kind of like arbitrary. And it's funny because like as you make progress into the core curriculum, like things become less and less mandatory, if that makes sense. Like is DSA mandatory? I mean, according to core curriculum, yes, but we didn't have it before and people are doing fine, right? So. Um, but we have more stuff like after the core curriculum to give you. And yes, the capstone prep material is quite intense nowadays. It's pretty full. And I think the question was, what if I finish on January 2nd? And you have to wait for the fall. Like if it's January 2nd, it's probably gonna be okay. It's like one day, right? We're reasonable. This is not like the Department of Motor Vehicles. You know what I mean? Like we're not gonna you missed it by a minute, you gotta wait a year. I feel like in general we're like reasonable human beings. And if you've been doing really, really well and it's tight, it's fine. And we'll talk to you as well. I mean, we just have people like push the envelope, right? They finish, for example, with like 3 weeks before capstone starts. That's just tight. That's just tight, and I hate to see you struggle during capstone. It's not just about getting in. It's just like, are you gonna be able to hang on? Are you gonna be able to do well? Right? And the less you know, the harder it is to keep up in capstone, right? It's not like capstone's not just about getting in, right? This isn't like MIT. You can't be like, I dropped out of capstone. It's not a badge of honor. Like I want to see you do well. I want to see you, like like a lot of people in capstone will say, hey, you guys like it wasn't that intense. I worked 45 hours. It was totally fine. And then others are like, that was crazy. I barely hung on to anything. Right. So the more preparation you have, the more you'll have that first experience, and I would rather you have that first experience. Um, so, but yeah, January 2nd is not a thing. I think it's really like if you finish February 2nd. That would be the sort of like, oh, let's talk, right? Let's talk about that. But
Yeah.
yeah, you do have to wait. For like you do have to wait the next cohort, and if you want, we have a lot of questions, not questions, material and work for you for sure.
Yeah. And the longer I think you dedicate to that prep work, the more comfy you're going to be in Capstone. So,
Yeah.
unless you have
And
some
most
like,
people are working, right? Most people kind of they'll just be like, cool, I'll just like work
mhm,
for until the next cohort.
mhm, for sure. Okay. Are there any like takeaways from 2024 capstone cohorts that have influenced? I guess the answer is yes, and like all of them, right? Like
For sure.
decisions happen based on that. Can you point
Yep.
to any specifics? And also, are they going to be reported? I think you already said recently by the end of the, I won't say. I
I'm
think,
aiming for end of the month. Yeah. Let's
yeah.
let's aim for that. So I think the biggest thing is that job hunt's taking longer, so therefore we're running programming in during the job hunt now, right? That's what OSI and internships are, and doing more work there, right? And in the past, just people didn't want to do that because they were busy interviewing, and so they're like, oh, here's this like OSI. I got to take a month off. No thanks. I'll just keep interviewing, right? Nowadays, you see more people taking us up on that offer, which requires us to do more work on that, right? And same thing with internships. It just requires us to do more work in terms of setting things up, and the internships are especially hard because they're not like, yeah, give me 10, right? They're like, give me two, give me one. So we have to do a lot of matchmaking and communication and all that. Um, but I think that's the biggest one is on the job hunt. I think I'm still hearing, people go off and when they get jobs, they do well. They do well. They do well at work. So haven't seen like a decrease in quality on that front or anything like that. Getting jobs is much harder now though, right? And also having like job hunt ability is important. And I'm not sure how to describe that other than like people who are better at job hunting do better. We have not filtered based on that. Does that make sense? Like we haven't done capstone missions based on like how well we think you can interview, right? And but that's a big difference, I think.
Yeah. So people with the soft skills are
Yeah,
definitely having a leg up. I have a kind of
100%.
follow-up question. We had some projects from the 2024 cohort that were AI based, and we just increased the AI curriculum. Are those people doing better, tending to? Like, are they more successful in the job hunt since they have some AI stuff on there?
Yeah, um I think it's one of those things that's like an extra condiment right now at this moment because I was going to talk about this later, but one of the greatest things about Silicon Valley is its hype machine. And I think sometimes it's annoying. Like we look at it and we're like, ah, come on, you know? And sometimes the hype is it uses like doom and gloom, right? And so, but it works. And by works, what I mean is it captures the attention of everybody else that's not in Silicon Valley, all the other industries, right? So like Silicon Valley and New York, obviously very AI centric. You don't have to sell anybody on AI there, but even small credit union in Nebraska, I guarantee you their development team is like, should we should we be looking at this? Like who among us knows AI stuff, right? And they're like, no one. And so where it's an advantage that I'm seeing is when you're applying for jobs using your normal software engineering a non-AI software engineering profile. And on top of that, you're like, I've been dabbling in AI stuff. All of a sudden, that's a plus, right? It's a plus. It's never a negative, right? So that just gives your candidacy a little bit of a boost. It's like, oh, cool. Like you kind of fit the profile of what we were hiring for anyway. You made it into the finalist, final five, but you have this extra little thing, this AI experience that we're all actually interested in behind the scenes because of this like hype machine that we're all feeling in, right? So that's where I think it's an advantage. I don't think it's like we're hiring an AI engineer again like, outside of Silicon Valley now, right? Outside of Silicon Valley, and you happen to be an AI engineer, right? No one got to come out of Capstone saying I'm an AI engineer. I shouldn't say most of us aren't, right? Um, but again, it is a net plus, I think.
Cool.
Yeah,
Okay,
even our
let's.
Capstone projects, by the way, are not necessarily like AI native or AI centric. Some of the more upcoming ones you'll see they are because we have AI curriculum. And so they're able to take the next step and make like AI native. Some of the earlier ones that you've seen might have been more like they're a feature flag with some AI features, right? But the core idea is like let's say feature flag or something like that, and then there's just like an AI feature. They're making it called OpenAI by API, and that's it, right? That's just you take that away, it's still a capstone project, but
Mhm.
you'll in the future you'll see more like AI centric, AI native. Like you can't take AI away.
Right. Great. Okay, let's talk about some of the discomforts of people feeling nervous about a long job hunt. Think I have two questions. First, let's talk about payback policy for people having trouble landing a job after capstone. Of course, some people are pushing that like 12-month job hunt, right? What's going on there?
I mean, everyone has like a unique reason. I don't want to say there's like one definite reason. I do think, and it's natural. I do think people just lose steam after like 6 months or even sooner. And so there's a lot of like downtime. Like people take time off, from job hunting, that is, and totally okay, right? People go on vacation. People just take some time off. People take a step back to like work on other stuff just because. And that's advice we give too sometimes. We're like, hey, the job hunt is just like kind of depressing if you get rejected for months and months and months. So they'll take back and work on stuff. Take a step back and just work on things, and sort of build up the positive vibes again, and just remind yourself like I have ability and skills. Just because in interviews, once you sort of reach that state of mind, it's hard to come across as super positive on interviews, right? Take a couple weeks off, build something, remind yourself that you enjoy building, and it's such a pleasure to, build things and exercise your skills and your competency. And then when you hit the job market again, you have like a refreshed positivity when you're talking to people. So that happens all the time. So there's just a lot of individual things. And also there are people that just kind of don't job hunt as well. We see that more and more. So that's what I mean by like I think the most people who can like sustain a long job hunt, they land. They land. But what I'm seeing is more and more people sort of giving up a little bit, and it's I mean I don't blame them, but it's what I'm seeing, right? But if you sustain it, I feel like you can find a place.
Yeah, so I'm going to circle back to the main point of that question, though, which is what happens with the payback of capstone
Oh,
fees?
got you. Yeah, I mean we just wait. I mean, what we don't like maybe the question is like you don't have to pay after some amount, some duration. We don't have that policy. Yeah. Yeah, we
Yeah.
just wait.
Yeah. But I think maybe like a between the lines answer to that question is that like the relationship doesn't like trickle out or phase out. Like, you're still, even at the 12-month line, you're still like checking in with mentors and,
If
maybe.
it does, it's not because of us. There are people that don't really talk to me or any of our other mentors, but it's not like we don't talk to them, if that makes sense.
You're not going to
I mean,
drop that.
yeah, like there are people that just don't talk to me. I don't know what they're doing, right? So I don't want to. Again, this is not about like casting blame. I'm just like, I get it. you need some time off, right? And I need to step away a little bit because it's just too long of a job hunt. I get that. But yeah, I mean, we're here. This is I spend at least 50% of my time on the job hunt, and then the other 50 probably on LS bot and just other stuff, taxes, things like that. But admin work. But yeah, it's a critical part of what we do, right? The job hunt. In my mind, it's like the main work of Capstone, right? The job hunt. And so as long as you're willing to put in effort, put in time, yeah, we'll be there to think about, brainstorm. I feel like I have access to so many resources. This has happened so many times when I reached out to somebody randomly that I haven't talked to in a while, and they're like, "Oh, I'm doing this," and then just a few days later, I'll talk to like an employer that's looking for that technology, and I just happened to talk to this person randomly. I reached out to them, right? If I didn't, I wouldn't even know this, and then sync them up, and good things happen, right? And our alumni too, they're constantly posting jobs. This is another reason for my optimism is that um, we have a hiring channel in our alumni Slack workspace. During 2023, I think when the cliff came, oh man, it was pretty insane. It was like every other day it was like a layoff. Oh, I got laid off. I got impacted. I got laid off. I got impacted. Right? I'm like, oh wow, it's over. Party's over, right? Um, last couple weeks, non-stop postings of my company's hiring, my company's hiring, my company. I even made a joke. I said, oh, I guess, turns out AI is not replacing, employers are realizing AI is not replacing software engineers, so now everyone's hiring, right? And someone else made a joke where it's like, after they saw GPT-5, they were like, yeah, we got to hire people. Right. So, and there's a lot of postings like that where I'm seeing it and I'm like, oh, I think this would be great for so and so. Right. But if you're not on top of my mind, I just can't make that connection. Right. So pro tip for anybody who's participating in Capstone, just stay in touch. Like that's a huge part of it. And believe it or not, a lot of people don't. A lot of people don't, right? So, that's a part of the job hunt, and that's a part of like working remote, kind of being professional, staying in constant communication. It's hard. A lot of people don't really know how to do that.
Yeah. Yeah, I think with most things, right, you get out what you put in. So, don't rush capstone prep is the message, I guess. Take your time and come in with lots of energy so that you can do all the things, put in all the effort. Okay, let's see. We have a bunch of questions that I know are like it depends questions, but I'll just let you say that. Are
Okay.
internships and OSI opportunities only open to US students?
No, all capstone students.
If you're in Capstone, you've been accepted into the club and you'll be in the club.
Yeah. There might be a few. I think there's every internship will have like some requirements. Sometimes they'll be like, we can only do US because of, whatever. They have a federal contract or something like that. But most of them are like, whatever. We
Mhm.
want good people.
Right. So the normal capstone requirement is like full time. You cannot like work a job during capstone. Of course, that's still true for
Yeah.
the curriculum. What about the job hunt? Like if it's taking people a long time and they're like, look, I've got to work, I've got to like earn some money.
Yeah, okay, so on paper we want you to job hunt full time. Just because I, yeah, just because I think it's a slippery slope. So, but yeah, I think again, I don't want to talk about exceptional states here, right? Like I'll just say this, we're generally pretty reasonable. Like there's people like, what if there's a family emergency? My grandparents pass away or something. I'm like, that's like it's fine. Like we'll work with you. I don't want to write that down on paper. I don't want to make promises beforehand to everybody, right? But if something happens or if you're in a unique situation, please keep in touch, talk to us, right? And we'll brainstorm a plan together.
Right. Yeah, all of the, rules are like for students to have the best success. It's not like for Chris to be happy, it's for them to
Yeah.
get
And
jobs.
if we say you can work while job hunt, that almost doesn't make sense. That's like a like you're working, you don't need a job. Like or just like the example with the OSI when we allow people to do job hunt and do the OSI at the same time. My experience with any of this stuff is like it just doesn't work well when things are part-time. Like people ask about part-time capstone all the time. There's no evidence in my mind that that will work. In fact, we've done like before we have Capstone as it looks today, we've done lots of random things like one-on-one mentoring, one in small group, all that stuff. Nothing's really worked great except for this, so you're just making different trade-offs, that's all. And the part-time thing is, I think we're gonna get like under 10% completion. That would be my expectation, and that would be good, right? 10% completion. If you want to cover the amount of knowledge we want to cover. It's going to be like a year and a half long program with a 5% completion rate. So,
Yep.
but anyway, that wasn't the question. But yeah, we want full time. Just focus, dedicated, and if something happens, let's talk about that.
Mhm. Okay, I want to go to a more fun question, which is what makes launch school qualified to teach AI stuff? Like we have 2 weeks of this now.
Hmm.
What's with that?
Uh, I don't know that anyone's qualified to teach it at the moment. I mean, like I said, I feel like we find ourselves on the frontier. That's all I'll say because we're spending a lot of energy building LS Bot, spending a lot of time building LS Bot, and we're running into a lot of the same things that if you look at, people who are writing about it, people who are teaching courses on it, we take all of them, right? Like every course that there is, we're taking it for the past year, right? And like we're right there. Anything that people are talking about, we're like, oh, we're running into this. Oh, that's how what we thought too, right? There's a lot of that going on behind the scenes. So I think we're as qualified as anybody. And we have a lot of hands-on experience, and I almost feel like it's less teaching. I don't know if Capstone's teaching. It's more like we're collaborating. We're sharing experience. You're basically treated as a peer in terms of you're like a software engineer. It's less like it's more if anyone have done like grad school, it's more like that, like a grad school, advisor, kind of relationship. And advisors don't teach, right? Advisors don't teach. So it's more nudging, more we can pull in resources. Oh, you're doing this. We know somebody that's also doing this. Let me pull in that expert to talk to you, right? And also as you work, we're like, oh, that doesn't make sense. You should try this instead. It's that type of conversation. So
Sure. Okay, great. A bit more information on what we mean by AI engineering, right? Like we're not open AI, but we're also not just like, calling the OpenAI API like once, right? So where are we landing somewhere in the middle there, right?
yeah, yeah. And there's a lot to it. It's not obvious. There's a ton of stuff into it. So AI engineering, you could think of it as this, right? So on the machine learning side of the house, that's not us. That's people who are creating the models, right? You can think of it as the people who are creating Postgres, right? Like we don't, some of the work bleeds through. We're like, oh, we have to know about indexes. Oh, we should, some Postgres has this quirk versus MySQL. Sometimes that bleeds through, but for the most part, we're not involved in like creating databases. Same thing with the models, right? It bleeds through. Um, but beyond working with the models, there's prompting and then there's verification because these are non-deterministic, right? And this is kind of like writing code and writing tests, kind of like that, but far more involved. The tooling is not stable yet. There's no best practices yet. Everyone's trying to figure it out. All the tools that are being used today have incredible velocity of change. You look at these tools that people use every month you do a check-in, it's almost like a new thing came. So everyone's trying to figure out the moment. But at a high level, there's a ton of work that surrounds the calling of the API. A ton of work. A lot of it's data work. A lot of it is just like manual verification work. Like, and all of it we're doing for LSBot. We're not even doing it to teach or to run our curriculum. We're doing it for LSBot because we want to increase the quality of LSBot, right? So we just take those learnings and share it with you.
Yeah, that makes sense. A few quick ones that I think we can just get out since, people have them, they submitted them. Is an internship spot guaranteed? Like, can
I
they?
would say the internship, I can't say that because we have varied availability on every cohort. It has to line up. Sometimes we have a lot, sometimes we have very few. OSI, we do have a spot for everybody, right? And so part of the work is to increase the availability of internships. I will say this, um, I can't guarantee it, but so far, basically anybody who wants to do it can. Like we have more spots than interest, if that makes sense. Uh,
Yeah,
and
that's the
and
trend.
uh, yeah, that's been the trend so far. It's that like so a lot of people don't want to do these things because they're just interviewing.
Mhm. All right. Someone heard you say that the courses towards the end of the core curriculum are less and less mandatory, so they wanted to know if they can skip those. Can we make some
Of
some
course, they would
courses
ask that.
optional?
This is why I don't say things.
I know.
People like ask me these questions, and then if I say it, they're like, "All right, got it." You said I could work during the job hunt, right? You said we
Yeah.
could all do it. Uh,
No.
so the answer is no, right? Like,
Yeah. The answer is no. Yeah. Um, Maybe in the future they're asking also about like adding more courses that are optional, but probably not. That's the point of the core curriculum, right? It's the core curriculum. Um, Probably
I
not.
think the only thing that I could think about adding there at this moment right now is like maybe when some of the AI stuff stabilizes, we can start pushing things there, right? So I can maybe I hope for that, frankly, because then it frees up Capstone to just talk about more fun stuff, right? Like
Mhm.
I'm excited to push things into the core. I know students are not because just like, oh my God, here's another course that came out of nowhere. But like I'm excited about that because it allows Capstone to just be even more impactful, right? Like my goal, honestly, is for you to participate in Capstone and then go to work and it's like, oh, same experience, right? That's the goal. Like that's why I said in Capstone, like I don't know if teaching is the right verb to use there. It's more like advising, guiding, things like that, right? Or a guide. Because you're already very competent. You're already very good. You just got to know like where to go and how hard to go um and if you're stuck, we can help you get unstuck, right? That's the goal. You're a very, very high quality already after the core curriculum. Um so I'm always excited to like make things more advanced during Capstone, right? That's my goal.
Yeah. Yeah, I know changes make people nervous, but I think it should actually be the opposite in these times, that like seeing changes is a really good sign that launch school is adapting. And, even as far back, like you talked about the DSA courses, but also like we switched to doing more interviews. Like
Yeah.
people need more soft skills. We're doing more interviews. Also, like some stuff with written doesn't work as well with AI
Yeah.
anymore, but like soft skills, right? So,
That's the
so
number
many
one thing
changes.
you know, I I don't know what to do about this, and I know the question wasn't asked, but honestly, it is I'm so confident in our technical coverage of core and capstone. I am so confident in that coverage. What I'm less confident in is are like people's individual interviewability, professionalism, that type of thing. Not confident, but just like we don't have guarantees of that, right? And so everyone wants a remote job. Working a remote job is tough. It's tough. I mean, it requires showing up every day with energy, with excitement, with enthusiasm, with proactive ability. You go out there and you got to reach out to people and talk to people. right? You got to figure out what problem solves. Like, oh, no one's giving me work. No one's giving you work because no one knows you can do work, right? And it's like you got to go get work, right? And I think that's the difference that I see. So getting a job requires a lot of that energy as well. I don't know if a course like if that's a course or something. So if people are in prep, you want to like optimize your chances of having great success after capstone. I would say like work on that somehow. I've been trying to start a launch school of Toastmasters. And so if anybody wants to do that, let me know. But I think it's more about that because we got the technical side covered, you know, really, really well. You don't got to worry about the technical stuff. It's really the non-technical that I think
Yeah.
that needs to even people out a little bit.
Yeah. Study with other people. Like even if you don't think you need it technically,
100%.
should study with other
100%.
people. Turn on your camera.
I just can't emphasize that enough. I just like it's easy for us. Like anybody that has technical issues, I almost feel like that's great. That's easy. That's easy for us to solve. Like here's a course, here's a book, here's exercises. It's
Yeah.
just it's the other stuff that's hard for us.
It'll be LS 270 soft skills, the next mandatory core curriculum
Yeah,
course.
you got to read those business self-help books. You just got to
Hmm.
consume those.
Yeah. That's not real. So don't go away thinking that's gonna happen.
Yeah, okay.
All
I should
right,
stop
let's
throwing random ideas out.
all right, I think we have a few repeat questions. I want to give you a chance to talk about just more like the market in general. Like, are you still optimistic? Can you give us your take from what you've seen?
Sure. I think this question gets asked a lot, right? And um I think it depends on your timeline. So if you're nearing retirement age, I think it's weird because your timeline is like 5 years, right? And I think that's hard to guess. It's hard to guess that duration. But if you have like decades ahead of you in a career, oh, maybe I should say another part that might be hard is if you're like not sure that you're dedicated to tech, which I do think there are a lot of people like that, where like, I used to be a nurse. I can go back to that. I think that's also hard because you can like hop between professions and industries, and I think that's also hard to make a bet. Because is it tech or nursing, right? Like I don't know, right? Maybe either one is good. But I'm absolutely 100%, this is me personally, committed to tech for the long haul. I think I don't see a world in which tech will be diminished. Software engineering in particular will be diminished in the span of decades. Um, and I think people new to the industry are also like kind of bewildered by like the threats to the profession. And like for me, it's like just like that's normal. Like every couple of years, the world is ending in the software engineering profession, and like it's fine, right? It's not a big deal. It's like offshoring. We had like drag and drop programming that was being pushed on us for a while. UML, right? So offshoring. So first India and China, then like UML diagrams, right? So like we draw diagrams, and that's the end of programming. And then we had before AI, we have like these have you heard of Bubble? Bubble? There's like these gosh, I'm blanking here. There's a term for these types of products. Just like you build apps by like dragging and dropping, not from a
Square.
UML standpoint, but for no code. Yeah, there you go. Thank you. Low code, no code movement,
Mhm.
right?
That was the end.
Um, and even before low code, no code, there was the like WordPress, Wix stuff. So it does erode the industry for sure. Like I had friends who did nothing but build websites, like HTML websites for like dentist offices and things like that. When Wix and Weebly came about, they couldn't do that anymore. That's not a job anymore. So there is erosion of the industry at the low end for sure. But who is creating Weebly and Wix? Do you know what I mean? It's not nurses. It's not like a different industry. It's software engineers still, right? Who is creating the low code and no code tools? It's not a different industry. It's not a different profession, right? So on the spectrum of like building software, the low end gets eaten, but you got to go into the high the high end side so that you're building the tools that automate our own industry. This is wild. It's a wild thought, right? Because our field is all about disruption of labor. And if you think about like, oh, you used to do that with spreadsheets? Don't do that. Let's build a website. And that seems obvious. You're like, duh, like why wouldn't we do that? And you can do other things. But guess what? That's somebody's job. That's an admin's job that you're eliminating. But for software professionals, we're like, oh, whatever. Like you should do something else, right? We're in the business of eliminating other industries' jobs. There's a guy that there's couriers. Did you know this? I worked in Europe for a while. There's people on bikes like sending documents back and forth between buildings. You're like, let me build you an upload tool, right? Like you don't need to courier documents back and forth, right? Let me build a remote notary tool. Let me build DocuSign, right? And so that you don't have to get physical signatures anymore. You've destroyed the couriers, their jobs. Let me build Uber. You destroy those medallions. They're very expensive. Taxi medallions, right? I don't care. People save like 10 years buying a medallion. You're like, whatever, I don't care, right? As software professionals, that's like the job disruption is like thing. But all of a sudden it's like, oh man, we're disrupting ourselves. We're like, oh man, that's bad, right? It's just par for the course. It's just what we do, right? The people who create Weebly, they're destroying my buddy's job, right? People who create these low code, no code tools, they're destroying low end consultants, right? It's just more of the same. So is this exciting or is this not exciting for you? Do you find this environment exciting? You're like, no, I don't. I just want to do this other thing. Well, guess what? You do this other thing, software engineers are coming for you anyway. You know what I mean? Like, I'm going to go over here and just work my stable job. So um, your margin's my opportunity, right? That's software engineers. These startup people, right? They look for every margin and they automate, automate, automate. And so you got to participate in this destructive cycle. I actually think it's great if you're not like, if you don't come from like a wealthy family, you don't have great access to like the higher tiers of American society where you're with all the billionaire clubs. This is great because it allows you a chance to participate and to um it's almost like a economic rebellion, right? You get to create you get to make your mark. You get to create uh your own thing in the world, right? You get to participate in that. So but I do think that the stability side of it is something you do have to sacrifice. It used to be that you can make a choice. It used to be that I don't want to be this like startup entrepreneur disrupting stuff. I just want to go work at a stable company, do my 9 to 5 and do that. That's okay. You had that choice. I feel like that side of it is where it's being impacted, right? Like you see the federal government, they're laying off federal employees, which is wild because before, if you're like a college student, graduate, you're like, I want that stability. I'm going to federal government. I don't need the high growth, right? I don't need to go work for Wall Street or Silicon Valley, right? I'm going to federal government just to maintain my stability. I can make a 30-year plan. But if they're laying off federal employees, then you don't have that choice either, right? So the only choice you have is just participate in this sort of disruptive environment. And the way that you participate in this disruptive environment is to be highly competent. That's my life philosophy. That's my own philosophy. I don't know if you buy it. If you don't buy it, that's okay too, right? It's just harder to understand the world. It's harder to understand this industry, right? But if you buy into this mindset and it also explains like why everyone's like so hype oriented in tech. But if you enjoy this type of thing, you're gonna thrive. You're gonna do great.
Yeah, and the taxi drivers are still fine. It sounded a little bit aggressive there at the end, but like everyone pivoted. The world, the printing press is
They
invented and
reacted. Let me
people
tell you this
pivot.
story, okay? I know this again, you didn't ask for it, but I used to, before I get a taxi, I would go to the bank and I would get dollar bills because they don't want to pull out their credit card machine. If you didn't ride taxis a lot, in San Francisco or New York prior to Uber, you didn't know how bad it was. If you didn't have cash, they would literally cuss you out, like literally. So when Uber came around, I was like, thank this is the best thing ever, right? Everyone felt that. And now, guess what? Taxis are great. They're awesome. They're super nice now. You can pay with your credit card, no problem, no complaints. This is competition, you know? So they had a monopoly. They abused it. It was terrible. Riding a taxi was like the worst experience ever. And I did that a lot in San Francisco, New York. And so in general, I feel like this is where like it can be a good thing for consumers, right? So, like I think that's the positive outcome, right?
Yeah, your job's
Right.
going to be more
Waymo's
exciting.
coming out exactly. I don't know if y'all rode in a Waymo before, but if you haven't, you really should try. It changes your mind about the about what's possible in the world, and it's exciting. I mean,
Mhm.
Waymo's amazing.
Yeah, exciting times. Great. I think we're about at the end of our time, and we have a few questions we didn't get to, but some hyper-specific things, or we just didn't get to it. So feel free to, when can we code a Waymo through Capstone? Um, feel free.
Udacity had a course that allowed you to do this, and for their final project, if you could, you would go to San Francisco, and they would load your code onto the self-driving car, and then they would run your code and see if the car went and navigated through an obstacle course. So it's all of this stuff. I'm telling you, it's not as far away as you think. It's a super exciting time.
Yeah. So maybe. All right, well, I think we'll wrap it up there. What I was saying is that feel free to shoot me a message if your question didn't get answered. I can't speak for Chris, he's busy, but I can answer a question or two async. And thanks for showing up. I hope that this has been soothing for everyone. I know that like 90% of Chris's job with Capstone is just soothing people's nerves. Um, so I hope it's been soothing. And if it hasn't, you guys should go and listen to Ginny because she's speaking in a bit less than
GatherTown.
an hour in GatherTown.
GatherTown. Yep.
Yeah.
So
And,
navigate to GatherTown in 50 minutes. She's going to
mhm.
talk about Jeannie's amazing. I'm going to pitch her a little bit. She's working as an AI engineer now, and just an amazing career growth. Been there for just a few years, I think. Now is already promoted. So she's on the cutting edge as well. So
And she was Capstone. So she was a TA and Capstone grad. So and she's just really, really kind and nice. So go listen to her and have fun and
she's more
happy study.
level-headed than me too. I think my advice is a little, I think, too crazy sometimes. But she's more like, yeah, she just gives better
She's
advice.
on point. All
Yeah.
right. Thanks, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.